Good morning, students. Until now, we have discussed about the various types of stresses and various types of strains. Now, we will discuss about what is Hooke's law and what is elastic modulus and what are different types of elastic modulus, etc. And we coming to the Hooke's law. So, if we see here, within the elastic limit, the stress and strain are directly proportional to one another, and this is what is called as Hooke's law. For example, if you want to discuss in detail, for example, if you take a spring, so if you see here, so like this, a spring is taken, and if you apply 1 kilogram weight, for example, the some extension of the string will happen. If you apply 2 kgs weight, more extension will happen. So like this, as you are able to see here, if you go on increasing the applied force or applied stress, the extension also increases or the strain also increases. So that is, the applied stress and produces strain are directly proportional to the one another within the elastic limit. So within the elastic limit, the stress and strain are directly proportional to one another. So this is what we call it as the Hooke's law. So what is meant by elastic limit means the maximum stress we can apply in such a way the material does not enter from elastic nature to inelastic nature. So that is what we call it as the elastic limit. So if you see here, so the maximum amount of stress we can apply so that the material do not enter from elastic nature to inelastic nature or plastic nature is called elastic limit. So within the elastic limit, stress is directly proportional to strain. So this is what is we call it as the Hooke's law. So represent stress by sigma and strain by epsilon. So sigma is directly proportional to epsilon, or sigma equal to epsilon E, where E is the proportionality constant, and we call this the proportionality constant as the modulus of elasticity or the elastic modulus. And we know the elastic modulus E equal to sigma by E epsilon from this formula. That is, elastic modulus equal to stress by strain, sigma by epsilon. And we already know stress is having the units of Newton per meter square and strain will have no units. So the elastic modulus or modulus of elasticity, capital letter E, also will be having the units as same as the stress amount, that is Newton per meter square or Pascal. And some units PSI are also used, which means we have already discussed pounds per square inch. In USA they use those units. Then coming to the stress versus strain graph. So here we have already discussed within the elastic limit, stress and strain are directly proportional to one another, or sigma equal to epsilon E. So this represents y equal to mx formula. So y equal to mx formula means it represents a straight line passing through the origin. Similarly, here we can consider y as sigma stress and x as the strain epsilon and m as the elastic modulus E, which is the slope of the graph. So if you take sigma, that is stress on y axis and strain on x axis, you will get a graph like this. So if you see the graph clearly or carefully, if you see the graph here, so here within the elastic limit as per Hooke's law, the stress is directly proportional to strain. So here x axis we have taken strain and y axis we have taken stress here. So if you increase this stress, which means we are going upward means y axis, along y axis we are graph represents the increase of stress. Similarly, from left to right, the graph represents increase of strain, because x axis we have taken strain and y axis we have taken stress. So as we increase the stress, the strain also increases, which means as the graph moves from bottom to top, it is also moving from left to right slightly, which means within the elastic limit, stress is directly proportional to strain. So this is Hooke's law is applicable only from O to A region. So here you are able to see clearly from O to A, the graph is straight line. So up to here only Hooke's law is satisfied. So here the point A is called as the proportionality limit. Point A is called as the proportionality limit, and if you increase this stress further, the graph will no more be straight line from point A to point B. If you see here from point A to point B, the graph is not satisfying the Hooke's law, which means the graph is not linear, but it is non-linear. But still it comes to the origin when the stress is removed, which means it behaves like an elastic material only. So although Hooke's law is not satisfied here in the AB region, the material behaves like elastic material only. So if you see clearly from point O to A, the material is elastic and also Hooke's law is obeyed. From A to B, if you see, Hooke's law is not obeyed, but the material is in elastic nature only. So from A to B, not A to B, O to B, from point O to B, the material will be in elastic nature. The material exhibits elastic nature. So within this stress range, the material exhibits elastic nature. If you apply stress more than this y coordinate corresponding to the B, then the material will enter into the inelastic nature. That is, elastic nature to plastic nature it will enter. So this point B related stress, we called it as the yield strength. So yield strength means the maximum stress we can apply so that the material be in elastic nature only, which means if we apply more than this yield strength stress, the material will enter from elastic nature to the inelastic nature. So this maximum stress within the elastic region, we call it as the yield strength. And even if we increase the stress slightly above this yield strength, for example, if you say point C here, so the material will be entering into the inelastic nature and there some permanent deformation happens. So from here, if you see until O to A, if you increase the stress, after removing the stress, the strain also becomes 0, which means it reaches the origin in the graph. Similarly, from point B also, at a yield strength stress also, if you remove the stress, the strain also becomes 0, so it comes back to the origin. So here whatever the region that is represented by sky blue color, so this represents the elastic region of the material, and here whatever that is shown by the pink color region here, that is represents the inelastic region of the material or plastic region. So here once you go beyond yield strength, so after that, although you remove the applied stress, if you remove the applied force or apply the stress, the material do not regain it to its original shape and size, which means that the graph will do not come back to its origin, but it reaches from point C to D here. From point C to D here. So which means even though the stress is completely made 0, still some strain represented by OD is remaining here. A non-zero strain is remaining here, which means some permanent deformation has occurred in the material. So OD we call it as the permanent set. OD we call it as the permanent set, which means some permanent deformation is happened in the material. So if you increase the stress further, up to point E here, so the material deformation increases. The material deformation gradually increases in the plastic region. And this is the maximum stress we can apply so that the material deformation happens without any destruction of the material. So if the material is not getting destructed, we can in the deformation range or plastic region, so we can apply as maximum as stress up to the y coordinate of E here. So that y coordinate related to E we call it as the ultimate tensile strength. So ultimate tensile strength means the maximum stress we can apply so that the material will have the material will not undergo any destruction and the deformation only happens. And after that, if you increase the stress further, so here up to here the graph shape is upwards. So after E, it is downwards. It has changed its direction and it is coming downwards. Which means coming downwards means the stress is decreasing here. And the strain is increasing. Which means after the ultimate tensile strength, even for small amount of stress also, the strain will be increased rapidly. Even for small amounts of stress also, after the ultimate tensile strength, the strain will be increased rapidly, and ultimately the fracture happens here at point F. So gradually here the material gets weakening of the material. If you apply stress more than that of the ultimate tensile strength, gradual weakening of the material happens. And this gradual weakening of the material is called as necking. So necking means gradual weakening of the material due to the concentration of the stress there. That we can see here how necking happens. So if you see here, the pillar, so here it is, pillar is thicker and very strong, and if you increase the stress, it is becoming thinner. And if you apply the stress more than this ultimate tensile strength represented by M, so what is happening here? So here some weak point, this is some weak point in it. So all the stress will be concentrated here. So here, due to the concentration of all the stress at a weak point, some damage starts here. Damage happening starts here. So the ultimately, if you go on increasing the stress further, so for even small stresses also, the material ultimately becomes fractured here. So at point here, so like this, the fracture of the material happens, and it is no more useful for the engineering applications afterwards. So like this, the stress concentration అంటాం. సో దీని నెకింగ్ అని ఎందుకన్నామంటే, సో జస్ట్ లైక్ అవర్ నెక్, దిస్ ఫోకస్ ఆన్ ది వీక్ పాయింట్ అనమాట. సో ఇట్ డ్యామేజెస్ ఆర్ ది వీక్ పాయింట్. సో వీక్ పాయింట్ని బట్టి, వీక్ పాయింట్ని పట్టుకొని డ్యామేజ్ చేయడానికి యూజ్ చేసుకుంటుంది అనమాట. సో ఇఫ్ యూ అప్లై stress more than the ultimate tensile strength, if you apply stress more than the ultimate tensile strength, then that stress will be concentrated at weak point to damage the material, and ultimately the material will be broken at point F. So this is about what is the stress versus strain graph. So if you once again want to see, so here if you see in the graph, point O to A, it is a proportionality region, and A to B, here it is the, and from point O to A only Hooke's law is satisfied, and from point A to B Hooke's law is not satisfied, but the material is in elastic nature only. So from point O to B, the material exhibits elastic nature, that is represented by sky blue color. Similarly, from point B to E, the material will exhibit plastic nature or inelastic nature, and that region is called as the inelastic region or a plastic region. And if you take the slope of the graph here, so within the proportionality limit from point O to A, if you take the slope of the graph, that slope of the graph means delta sigma by delta epsilon, that is change in stress by change in strain, or stress by strain. That will give you the elastic modulus, stress by strain. The slope of the stress versus strain graph in the proportionality region will give you the elastic modulus. And there are certain things whose deformation is very more when compared to the various metals like iron, copper, steel, brass, etc. Examples are rubber band or spring, etc. And here one more thing is aorta, a large tube vessel carrying blood from heart. So this also, it will exhibit a parabolic shape for the stress versus strain graph, which means here also Hooke's law is not satisfied, but the material is in elastic nature only. Although Hooke's law is not satisfied here, the material exhibits elastic nature only. And then coming to the elastic modulus, So as we have already discussed, if you plot a graph between stress and strain in the elastic limit, so like this, if you plot a graph between stress and strain, so strain you are taking on x-axis and stress you are taking on y-axis. So within the elastic limit, if you plot a graph between stress versus strain, so you will get a straight line passing through the origin as Hooke's law is satisfied. So here you can say sigma equal to epsilon E or E equal to sigma by epsilon. So the slope of the graph, stress versus strain graph, will give you the elastic modulus. So elastic modulus is defined as the ratio of stress to the strain. Ratio of stress to the strain or the slope of the stress versus strain graph. So similar to the different types of stress, we have different types of elastic modulus also. So modulus is singular and moduli is plural. So here we have longitudinal stress and longitudinal strain, similarly shear stress and shear strain, and also we have bulk stress and bulk strain. So the corresponding elastic moduli are called with the corresponding modulus. For example, the longitudinal stress by longitudinal strain, if we consider, that is what is called as, that elastic modulus is called Young's modulus. Similarly, shear stress by shear strain is called, that related elastic modulus is called the shear modulus. We also call it as rigidity modulus or modulus of rigidity. And the ratio of bulk stress to the bulk strain is called, that related elastic modulus is called as the bulk modulus. So if we want to go discuss in detail one by one, so here first let us discuss about the Young's modulus. So here Young's modulus means it is generally defined as the ratio of longitudinal stress to the longitudinal strain. The ratio of longitudinal stress to the longitudinal strain is called Young's modulus. That is y equal to sigma by epsilon. That is longitudinal stress by longitudinal strain. That is equal to F by A by delta L by L, which we can also write it as FL by A into delta L. So here F we can take as F equal to mg, that is force applied is, we can take it as, if m is the mass of the load applied, then we can take F equal to mg. And A is the area of cross section. So here we can, if we take a metal weight, then we can take A equal to pi r square, like that. Since strain is a dimensionless quantity, the MKS use of Young's modulus. So whatever the elastic modulus, whether it is Young's modulus or the rigidity modulus or what we call it as shear modulus or the bulk modulus. So for all the three elastic modulus, the units are same. That is as same as the stress, that is Newton per meter square or Pascal. Here, when we say the Young's modulus is more, that means even for more stress, we are unable to bring small changes in the length of the material. So even if we apply more stress, if if we are unable to bring even small changes in the material, then we say the Young's modulus is more and more. Similarly, on the other hand, if we are able to bring large changes in the length of the material, even for small stress, then we call the Young's modulus is less for those materials. So if we need to apply more stress, even for bringing small strain, then we say the Young's modulus is more for that materials. And if we are able to get more amount of strain even for less amount of stress, then we say the Young's modulus is less. So here metals exhibit more Young's modulus because we need to apply more stress for bringing even small amounts of strains. And ceramics and polymers, on the other hand, they exhibit lower Young's modulus. And how we can determine the Young's modulus experimentally means, if we take a metal wire and if you apply metal wire of length L you have taken, and you have one of its ends you have to fix to the ceiling, and you can measure the length of the string using a meter scale, and if you can also measure the diameter of the metal wire using screw gauge or vernier calipers, and you can from that you can also measure the radius of the metal wire. So if once you know the radius of the metal wire, you can easily calculate the cross sectional area, A equal to pi r square. So here if you apply some load at the bottom of the metal wire, so the length of the material will increase. So if you measure the if you take final initial length as L0 and final length as L1 for mass M1, then you can calculate the Young's modulus using the formula y equal to sigma by epsilon. So already we know sigma equal to F by A, that is divided by delta L by L, equal to FL by A into delta L. So this is equal to mgl by pi r square into delta L. So here gl by pi r square are constant. So here L is the initial length, L equal to L0 is the initial length, and m is the mass applied, and delta L is the change in length. So here gl by pi r square is constant, so we bring it back separately, and if we change m, delta L also changes in the proportional direction. So m by delta L becomes constant here. So for different masses you measure what is the change in length, so that delta L. So if you go on increasing the masses like 1 kg mass, 2 kg mass, 3 kg mass, 4 kg mass, like this, M1, M2, M3, M4, like this, if you go on increasing, so corresponding final length of the metal wire you get L1, L2, L3, L4, like this. So if you measure Li minus L0 or Li minus L, that gives the delta L value, change in length. So if you tabulate the values for different masses, so what is the change in length happened, m versus delta L, if you tabulate, and if you calculate m by delta L and the average value of m by delta L for all, and then you finally substitute in the formula, and theoretically, experimentally you can calculate what is the Young's modulus of the given metal wire. Similarly, through graph also you can calculate. So if you plot the graph between m and delta L, if you take m on y-axis and delta L on x-axis, you will get the graph passing through the, you will get a graph straight line passing through the origin. For example, if you see here, so this is x-axis and this is y-axis and this is origin and this is the graph. So here x-axis you take delta L and y-axis you take mass in kgs. So like this you will get a straight line. So if you calculate the slope, so the slope is given by delta m by delta L or m by delta L. So the slope will give, or you can also calculate. So like this any point you can take and that point corresponding x value, y value. So if you consider like this, just like that also you can calculate it. That final value you can substitute in the formula m by delta L. So m by delta L are the slope of the graph. If you substitute here, you will get the graphical value of the Young's modulus finally. And this Young's modulus is found to be same whether it is a tensile stress or compressive stress. So tensile stress lo gaani, compressive stress lo gaani, the Young's modulus value remains same in terms of magnitude. Next, coming to the shear modulus. So we have already discussed shear modulus is related to the shear stress and shear strain. So the ratio of shearing stress to the shearing strain is called as the shear modulus, and it is also called as rigidity modulus or torsion modulus, and it is represented by the letter G, capital G. Young's modulus is represented by capital Y, whereas the shear modulus is represented by letter capital G. And we have the shear modulus G equal to shear stress by shear strain, that is F by A by delta X by L. So here, as we have already discussed earlier, the shear strain is given by delta X by L, that is tangential displacement by original length. Tangential displacement by original length, as we can able to see here. So here this is the delta is tangential displacement and the L is the length of the material. So that gives the shear strain. So we have the shear modulus G equal to shear stress by shear strain, that is equal to F by A by delta X by L. So that is ultimately we get FL by A into delta X. And we call this strain also as the tan theta, or which is also equal to theta. So according to that one, we can also say the shear modulus is given by G equal to F by A by theta, or F by A theta. So we can also write shear strain as, if we write shear strain as theta, shear stress is sigma S is given by sigma S equal to G into theta. And then coming to the bulk modulus. So the bulk modulus means, as we have already discussed, when a material is submerged in the liquid, so hydraulic stress happens. So here whatever the hydraulic stress that is, we can represent by F by A, that is force by area. So that is equal to pressure. So force by area also gives the pressure. So that pressure or liquid pressure or hydraulic pressure we can measure by using the formula P equal to HdG, where H is the height of the liquid column, and d is the density of the liquid, and g is the acceleration due to gravity. If you take like this, then HdG gives the hydraulic pressure, that is pressure due to the liquid column. So this hydraulic stress is equal to the pressure. Hydraulic stress also we can take it as the pressure P. So here we can say the bulk modulus, and it is represented by letter capital K or capital B. So bulk modulus is represented by either capital B or capital K. So here, if we represent the bulk modulus by capital K, so this K is given by bulk stress by bulk strain, that is hydraulic stress by hydraulic strain. So hydraulic stress is also represented by pressure P, by bulk strain is delta V by Vn. But here delta Y by V is the negative value, because the volume is decreasing, so delta V is negative, so delta V by V also will get negative value. But ultimately we have to represent the bulk modulus in terms of positive quantity. So in order to convert negative quantity into positive quantity, we have to multiply with one more negative sign. So ultimately we get the bulk modulus equal to B or K equal to minus P by delta V by V. Here it is important to remember that the negative sign is taken only to convert the bulk modulus into positive quantity, because the delta V by V, that is bulk strain, is negative. And the reciprocal of the bulk modulus is called as compressibility. Reciprocal of the bulk modulus is called compressibility, and this is represented by small letter K. And here we have K equal to small k equal to 1 by capital K or 1 by capital letter B. So compressibility is the reciprocal of the bulk modulus. So I have already discussed here K equal to minus P by delta V by V, or we can also say K equal to minus PV by delta V anachu. So if we say compressibility, so that is the small letter K equal to 1 by capital K equal to minus 1 by P into delta V by V. And the bulk modulus is very much high for the solids, and it is moderate for the liquids, and it is least for the gases. And from this one we can say compressibility, which is the reciprocal of the bulk modulus. So compressibility is more in case of gases, and compressibility is moderate in case of liquids, and the compressibility is the least in case of solids. Which means the compressibility increases from solids to gases through liquids. Compressibility is very much less for the solids, and compressibility is very moderate for the liquids, and compressibility is very high for the gases. And this reason for this one is the gaseous molecules are weakly bonded, so we can compress them as much as possible. So their compressibility is large. We say their compressibility is large. Similarly, if we come to the liquids, there also the molecules are bonded, but not as weak as gases. So they are moderately bonded. So here also we can say the compressibility of the liquids is less when compared to the gases. But if you come to the case of solids, so here we say the atoms are strongly bonded to one another. The atoms are strongly bonded to one another and are closely packed. So we cannot compress them to larger extents. So we say the compressibility of solids is very less. So compressibility of the solids is very less, and the compressibility of the liquids is moderate, and the compressibility of the gases is very large. And here through this table you can go through different types of stresses and different types of strains, and what type of changes happen in those materials due to those stresses, and what is the related elastic modulus, and what is the name of the elastic modulus, and what state of matters these stresses are applicable. All these things you can see here. Next, coming to the Poisson's ratio, and here if you carefully see here, so if you carefully see here, if you take a material and apply the tangential stress, if you take a cylindrical wire and you apply the tangential stress, so here you are able to clearly see along the increase of length, simultaneous decrease of diameter also happens here. So when you apply tensile stress, so here the length of the material is increasing from L0 to Li here. So here Li represents L1, L2, L3, L4 like this for different applied forces. Similarly here diameter decreases from D0 to Di. So here also Di represents D1, D2, D3 like this. So as the length of, so as we go on increasing the force, or load, the length of the material increases, so simultaneously the diameter of the wire goes on decreasing. So along with increase of length, simultaneous decrease of the diameter is also happening. So if you take like this axis, so the length of the material you have taken along z axis, and the diameter is considered to be along a x axis direction or the y axis direction. So if you consider what is the change in along z direction, so along z direction we have taken the length of the material, so the axial strain, we can say axial strain or longitudinal strain, that is happens along z axis. So axial strain or longitudinal strain, we can call it as we can represent it by letter epsilon z, because it is happening along the z axis. So we have the longitudinal strain or the axial strain is given by epsilon z equal to delta L by L naught, that is the Li minus L0 by L0. Similarly, the lateral strain, which means along the y-axis or along the x-axis, diameter change happens. So here we represent the lateral strain by epsilon x equal to delta d by d naught, that is di minus d0 by d0. Similarly, delta epsilon y also we can say delta d by d0, that also, because x-axis and y-axis both represents the diameter only, changes in diameter. So like this, Poisson, a scientist, observed that the axial strain or longitudinal strain is directly proportional to the lateral strain, or lateral strain is directly proportional to the longitudinal strain. So here if you see, so a careful observation of A long thin metal wire of length L0 and diameter D0 stretched under tensile stress along z axis reveals that along the with increase of length, simultaneous decrease in diameter also occurs in the wire due to decrease in the area of cross section of the wire with the increase of length. And if epsilon x equal to epsilon y happens, then the material may be isotropic material, which means isotropic material means if the properties of the materials are same, whatever the direction, then it is called as the isotropic material. Which means if the properties are same in all directions, then the material is said to be isotropic material. So whatever properties may be, elastic properties or electrical properties or optical properties, etc. So if the properties of the material remain same in all directions, then the material is called as an isotropic material. If the properties are change with the direction, then the material is called anisotropic material. And Simon Poisson pointed out that within the elastic limit, the lateral strain is directly proportional to the longitudinal strain. So longitudinal strain, well, we can also call it as the axial strain. So Simon Poisson observed that within the elastic limit, lateral strain is directly proportional to the longitudinal strain or axial strain. So in his memory, the ratio of lateral strain to the longitudinal strain is called as the Poisson's ratio, and it is represented by Greek letter nu or Roman letter nu. So we have Poisson's ratio nu equal to delta d by d, which is lateral strain, by delta L by L. Because here the Poisson's ratio also we have to represent by Poisson positive number only. So but here delta d, that is the change in diameter, happens in the negative manner, which means the diameter is decreasing. So delta d value we get negative value here. So to convert the Poisson's ratio into positive quantity, we also here also use the symbol minus. So we have Poisson's ratio nu equal to lateral strain by longitudinal strain. So that is minus delta d by delta L by L, or L into delta d by d into delta L. And here it is important to remember that this is Poisson's ratio is only an elastic constant. It is not an elastic modulus. Poisson's ratio is only a elastic constant. It is not a elastic modulus. And it is simply the ratio of one type of strain to the another type of strain. So it is also dimensionless as well as unitless. And coming to the relations between different types of elastic modulus and Poisson's ratio. So here the relation between Young's modulus capital Y, shear modulus capital G, and Poisson's ratio nu is given by Y equal to 2G into 1 plus nu. Similarly, the relation between Young's modulus Y, bulk modulus K, and Poisson's ratio nu is given by Y equal to 3K into 1 minus 2 nu. So from these two equations we can derive the relation between bulk modulus, shear modulus, and Poisson's ratio also, as represented by nu equal to 3K minus 2G by 2 into 3K plus G. Similarly, if we eliminate Poisson's ratio, we can usually relate the different elastic moduli with one another. That is Young's modulus rigidity modulus and bulk modulus. So I can represent the relation between them by eliminating the Poisson's ratio as y equal to 9 kg by 3k plus g. So this is about the relation between various elastic moduli. Next, coming to the elastic potential energy in the stretched wire. So when a metal wire is put under the tensile stress, let us suppose the material length is increased from L to L plus capital L to capital L plus small l, where small l is delta L. So when the material is increased from capital L to L plus capital L plus small l, that is L plus delta L, some work is being done here. Some work is being done here on the material. So here if you say the work done, so I have already taken y equal to sigma by epsilon, that is F by A by delta L by L, and here we have taken delta L as L. So we can write it as y equal to F L by A into delta L, or F capital L by A small l. So we can write F equal to YA small l by capital L, YA small l by capital L. And here if you consider the work done, amount of work done, so we consider W equal to integral 0 to L. So work done during the increase of length from 0 to small l, F dl. So here y F we can write it as we have already taken here, F we can write it as YA small l by capital L into dl. So we can write work done equal to integral 0 to L YA small l by capital L. So here YA by capital L, we bring it outside the integration part because it is a constant, and the integral 0 to L L dl. So ultimately we will get like this. So on simplifying, we get the work done equal to half sigma epsilon into volume of the wire. So here this represents the total elastic potential energy stored in. So this work done is stored in the form of potential energy in the string, and this represents the total potential elastic potential energy stored in the string. So if you want to calculate the elastic potential energy per unit volume of the material, so we can take it as small u. So small capital U represents the total elastic potential energy, whereas the small u represents the elastic potential energy per unit volume. So that is given by half into sigma epsilon, that is half into stress into strain. So this formula represents the elastic potential energy per unit volume of the elastic material. And coming to the different applications of elastic properties of the materials. So when designing building or structural design of columns or beams and supports, we require the knowledge of the strength of the materials used. And in case of construction of ropes also, we use the knowledge of the mechanical properties of the materials or elastic properties of the materials. Similarly, a bridge has to be designed in such that we can withstand load of the flowing traffic, the force of winds and its own weight. So the bridge also will be having its own weight. So that the bridge has to be capable of flowing traffic and also force of the wind and also its own weight. So all this has to be bared by the bridge. So for this one also, the elastic properties of the bridge have to be understood by us, the engineers. in both construction of a building and the construction of a bridge, the overcoming of the problem of bending of beams under loads is of prime importance, and the beam should not bend too much or break. So for this, all these things, types of things, so the knowledge of elastic properties of materials is very required. So this is about the elastic properties of solids. Elastic properties of solids. So we can close here, and we will continue the next class about the elastic properties of fluids, fluid statics and fluid dynamics. Thank you.